The shaking hands could barely hold the 1911 pistol. Young soldiers prepared their state-of-the-art Glocks, while 85-year-old Harold Mitchell picked up his grandfather's Colt .45. 3 minutes later, those elite warriors would learn why old weapons never go out of style. Because experienced hands never truly shake. They just wait. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Tell us which city you're watching from, and subscribe if you believe that the weapon is only as good as the man behind it. Harold's story will show you why underestimating vintage steel might be the last mistake you ever make. Fort Benning's annual Heritage Shooting Competition drew participants from across the military spectrum, celebrating the evolution of American small arms through competitive marksmanship. The event featured side-by-side comparisons between historical weapons and modern military firearms, showcasing technological advancement while honoring the tools that built America's military legacy. Harold Mitchell attended as a spectator, his weathered hands gripping a walking cane that had replaced the weapons he'd once carried through Korean battlefields. At 85, Harold represented a vanishing generation of warriors who'd learned marksmanship with equipment that modern soldiers only saw in museums. His presence was barely noticed among the crowd of active-duty personnel preparing cutting-edge firearms for competition. The modern military contingent was impressive in both equipment and training. Staff Sergeant Marcus Rivera carried a Glock 19X, the military's newest standard-issue sidearm, featuring polymer construction, striker-fired mechanism, and magazine capacity of 19 rounds. His weapon represented decades of engineering advancement designed to maximize reliability while minimizing weight and maintenance requirements. The Glock's safe action system eliminated the need for external safeties while providing consistent trigger pull and rapid follow-up shots that made it devastatingly effective in combat situations. Sergeant First Class Amanda Torres brought a SIG P320 M17, the Army's official modular handgun system featuring interchangeable grip modules, night sights, and suppressor-ready threaded barrel. Her training emphasized the weapon's modular design philosophy that allowed customization for specific mission requirements and operator preferences. The P320's striker-fired mechanism provided reliable ignition, while its polymer frame reduced weight without sacrificing durability during extended operations. Lieutenant Jake Morrison carried a customized Glock 17 with aftermarket trigger, extended magazine release, and competition-grade barrel that cost more than most civilians earned in a month. His setup represented the pinnacle of modern pistol technology, designed for maximum accuracy and lightning-fast follow-up shots. The weapon's modifications included a match-grade barrel, reduced trigger pull weight, and ergonomic enhancements that eliminated human error from the shooting equation. The competition's centerpiece was precision shooting at 25, 50, and 100 yards using iron sights only, eliminating the advantage of modern optics and focusing purely on fundamental marksmanship skills. Participants would engage standard military silhouette targets with scoring based on accuracy and consistency rather than speed, emphasizing the precision that separated expert marksmen from casual shooters. Harold watched the preliminary preparations with quiet interest as young soldiers conducted elaborate equipment checks and range estimations. Their weapons represented millions of dollars in research and development, designed by teams of engineers to maximize human performance while minimizing the skill required for effective employment. Every component was optimized for reliability, accuracy, and ease of use under combat conditions. The dismissive comments began during the equipment inspection period. Staff Sergeant Rivera noticed Harold examining the vintage weapons display and approached with the casual condescension of youth addressing antiquity. "Checking out the museum pieces, old-timer?" Rivera asked loudly enough for other competitors to hear. Pretty amazing how primitive weapons used to be before real engineering took over. Harold studied Rivera's Glock with professional interest while maintaining polite composure. "That's an impressive weapon, Sergeant. Polymer frame, striker-fired mechanism, high-capacity magazine, very different from what we used in Korea." Rivera's laugh carried the superiority of someone who'd never been tested under fire. Korea? Man, that was like 70 years ago. These old guns are basically antiques compared to modern firearms. No offense, but technology has passed your generation by completely. Lieutenant Morrison joined the conversation with similar arrogance. "My Glock here cost $8,000 after modifications. It's got a match-grade barrel, competition trigger, and precision components that eliminate human error. These museum pieces might be historically interesting, but they're useless for actual shooting." Harold nodded thoughtfully while examining Morrison's customized weapon. $8,000 is significant investment. What kind of accuracy does that purchase? Morrison's response was delivered with absolute confidence. "Sub-inch groups at 25 yards all day long. The trigger breaks like glass at 2 pounds, and the barrel is hand-fitted for maximum precision. It's basically a precision instrument disguised as a service pistol." Harold's smile carried decades of memories, involving weapons that cost significantly less but achieved similar results in the hands of properly trained operators. Sergeant Torres added her voice to the technical discussion. "These modern weapons are designed by computer modeling and tested under laboratory conditions. Every component is optimized for maximum performance while minimizing maintenance requirements. We're talking about engineering perfection compared to whatever they used in the old days." The conversation attracted other competitors who gathered around to discuss the superiority of modern firearms over historical weapons. Their discussion became increasingly dismissive of older technology, with several participants expressing amazement that anyone had achieved effective results with primitive equipment lacking modern enhancements. Harold listened patiently while young soldiers explained the advantages of modern metallurgy, manufacturing precision, and design philosophy that had rendered historical weapons obsolete. Their confidence was absolute, based on training that emphasized technological solutions to marksmanship challenges and equipment designed to compensate for human limitations. The turning point came when Rangemaster Colonel Harrison announced that anyone could participate in the competition regardless of age or active duty status. The invitation was intended to encourage veteran participation and demonstrate historical perspective on American small arms development. Harold's decision to participate surprised everyone, including himself. "I'd like to enter the competition," Harold announced quietly, approaching the registration table with measured steps that showed his age but retained military bearing. The request drew surprised looks from competitors who'd spent the morning discussing his generation's technological obsolescence. Colonel Harrison reviewed Harold's military records with growing interest. Korean War veteran, Presidential Unit Citation, Bronze Star with V device, expert marksmanship qualification on multiple weapon systems. "Mr. Mitchell, we'd be honored to have you participate. What weapon will you be using?" Harold indicated the 1911 A1 pistol in the vintage weapons display. "That Colt 45, if it's available. Same model I carried in Korea, and my grandfather carried in World War II. I'm familiar with its characteristics." The announcement that Harold would compete using a 75-year-old pistol against modern firearms drew barely concealed amusement from younger participants. Staff Sergeant Rivera's reaction was typical of the group's attitude. "Sir, no disrespect, but that old 45 doesn't have the accuracy potential of modern weapons. The trigger's probably got a 7-pound pull, the sights are basic military issue, and the ammunition isn't match grade. You're going to be seriously disadvantaged." Lieutenant Morrison nodded agreement while examining Harold's weapon choice. That 1911 was designed in 1911, hence the name. It's over a century-old design-wise, and this particular pistol looks like it's seen better days. The modern weapons here represent 110 years of advancement in metallurgy, manufacturing, and design philosophy. Harold accepted the vintage Colt 45 with reverence that came from intimate familiarity with its operating characteristics. The weapon showed honest wear from decades of military service, but its action cycled smoothly, and its barrel remained sharp despite age. Most importantly, it represented the same design philosophy and manual of arms that Harold had learned during his military service. The young soldiers continued their commentary while Harold conducted his equipment inspection. "Look at those sights," Torres observed. "They're just basic military posts. No adjustability, no precision alignment capabilities. Modern night sights would be impossible to install on that old frame design." Morrison added his technical analysis. "The trigger on that thing probably breaks like a brick. My competition setup has a 2-pound pull with 0 overtravel and a glass-smooth brake. There's just no comparison between old and new technology." Harold completed his inspection and approached the firing line with the steady pace of someone who'd performed this ritual thousands of times. His preparation was minimal compared to the elaborate setup procedures employed by younger competitors, but his movements showed efficiency that came from muscle memory developed over decades of practice. The competition began at 25 yards, with modern soldiers demonstrating their capabilities using state-of-the-art equipment and advanced training methods. Rivera's Glock 19X produced excellent results, with groups measuring less than 2 inches and consistent accuracy that reflected both superior equipment and competent training. Torres achieved similar results with her P320, while Morrison's customized Glock delivered sub-inch accuracy that justified its expensive modifications. When Harold stepped to the firing line, something fundamental changed in his bearing. The elderly veteran disappeared, replaced by someone whose presence commanded attention without demanding it. His shooting stance was textbook perfect, but from an era when marksmanship was taught as art rather than science backed by technology. Harold's first shot with the vintage 1911 struck dead center of the target, followed by 4 more that created a group smaller than any produced by modern weapons. The distinctive sound of the .45 ACP cartridge, different from the sharper crack of 9mm rounds, punctuated each precisely aimed shot. His final group measured less than an inch, achieved with iron sights and a trigger that supposedly broke like a brick. The 50-yard targets revealed Harold's true capabilities. While modern soldiers struggled with the increased distance and wind effects, Harold's shooting remained mechanically precise. His understanding of the 1911's ballistics was intuitive rather than calculated, based on thousands of hours of practice under his grandfather's demanding instruction and later refined through combat experience in Korea. At 100 yards, the longest distance in the competition, Harold's dominance became absolute. This was where experience and fundamental skills were supposed to matter most, but where modern weapons should have provided decisive advantage through superior accuracy and consistency. Harold's approach was methodical and unhurried, each shot carefully aimed and smoothly executed. His final group at 100 yards measured less than 3 inches, a level of precision that would be impressive with modern match ammunition and competition equipment. Achieved with a 75-year-old service pistol using standard military ammunition, it was extraordinary. The young soldiers who dismissed his equipment as obsolete found themselves studying techniques that predated their training doctrine by decades. Staff Sergeant Rivera approached Harold with the respect one warrior offered to another. "Sir, that was incredible shooting. I need to apologize for my earlier comments about your equipment. That 1911 obviously works fine in the right hands." Harold began cleaning the vintage pistol with practiced efficiency. "Sergeant, Your Glock is an excellent weapon, and your shooting was very good. The 1911 isn't better or worse than modern pistols, just different. Both require proper fundamentals to achieve their potential. Lieutenant Morrison examined Harold's target with professional amazement. "Sir, how did you achieve that level of accuracy with iron sights and a military trigger?" "My competition setup cost $8,000, and I didn't shoot as well as you did with that old .45. Harold's explanation was simple but profound. "Lieutenant, accuracy comes from understanding your weapon's characteristics and applying consistent fundamentals. Expensive modifications can help, but they can't replace proper training and practice." The afternoon ended with an impromptu marksmanship clinic as Harold worked with each young soldier individually, sharing insights that no modern training program could provide. His teaching emphasized the relationship between shooter, weapon, and target that existed regardless of technological advancement. The competitors who'd mocked his obsolete equipment found themselves learning techniques that made their expensive modifications seem less important. Colonel Harrison approached Harold during the award ceremony with genuine admiration. "Mr. Mitchell, that was a masterclass in fundamental marksmanship. These young soldiers learned more today about shooting than they would in months of conventional training." Harold accepted the competition trophy with quiet dignity, while modern soldiers applauded with newfound respect for both his skills and his equipment. As the event concluded, several participants asked Harold about purchasing vintage 1911 pistols for their own use. His response emphasized that the weapon wasn't magic, but that understanding its characteristics and practicing proper fundamentals could unlock accuracy potential that existed regardless of age or technological sophistication. The story of Harold's victory became legend throughout Fort Benning and beyond, retold as an example of why fundamental skills properly developed transcended technological advancement. Young soldiers began seeking instruction in iron sight, shooting, and traditional marksmanship techniques that their modern training had overlooked. Harold returned the vintage 1911 to its display case, but its day on the firing line had proven that some capabilities never became obsolete. The weapon had demonstrated that engineering excellence wasn't limited to modern materials and manufacturing methods, and that in skilled hands, older designs could match or exceed the performance of their contemporary replacements. Where are you watching from today? Tell us in the comments about a time when experience proved more valuable than expensive equipment. Subscribe to Hidden Legends for more stories proving that some skills and tools never go out of style, regardless of age or technological advancement.